Hello everyone, I guess we should be starting off. As others are joining, I welcome you all. Can everyone hear me? Please notify me if you can hear me clearly. And if you cannot,
we can hear you.
Okay, we can do something about that. I'm going to turn on my video. Okay, I hope you can see me well. And today, for today's event, we are partnering with ICPAU Uganda. In our event, we are delivering for you from the CEO of ICPAU, and we expect the best. Please make sure that you join in. If you have any questions, you put them in the question and answer or in the chat. And make sure that you publicize, tell all those who have not yet joined to come in and join the event. So for today's event, our theme is going to be the future of the accounting profession and what ought to be done to remain relevant. What should you do as accounting students or as accounting professionals, as aspirants who want to venture into accounting roles in order to remain relevant? And we thought to ourselves, how best can we do that? How best can we hear that? You know, if it's not from the ICPAU Uganda, the CPA themselves. So my name is Mulinde John. I am a second-year student of Bachelor of Commerce from Makerere University Business School, and I'm the head of corporate affairs, assistant head of corporate affairs at Asamu. What is Asamu? It is Accounting Students Association of Makerere University. So a collaboration like that, expect the best. With no further ado, we are going to allow for an opening prayer from our one Miss McLean. If possible, she can be unmuted to give us an opening prayer. Let us ask our host to be able to do that for us. McLean, are you on the call? Can you be able to give us an opening prayer? This event is broadcasted live on Facebook and all other platforms of CPA Uganda. So ICPA Uganda. So if you want to watch it from there, you can go there and watch it from there. It is live. And make sure you do not miss out because of internet, because of data. Send out this information to as far as possible so that we can be able to have this information passed on to our future accountants, to our future professionals, to the future people who are going to be able to have or to occupy accounting roles. So please, Mr. Mugisha, let me know
to lead us in the prayer.
Okay. Let us get Lynette Mugisha to lead us in the opening prayer.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for today. Thank you so much for bringing each and every one of us here. Thank you for the Asamu team. Thank you for the CPA team. And I pray, Lord, that as we gather today, we will learn, we will share, and we will grow. I pray for this event to go well, and I pray for everything else that I've not mentioned. In Jesus' name I've prayed. Amen.
Okay, so after the prayer, we have to move on to Professor Stephen Kundabanyanga giving us opening remarks. So Mr. Mugisha, please make that Professor a panelist so that he can give us opening remarks on behalf of Asamu. Professor Stephen Kundabanyanga is the head of department of the accounting department at Makerere University in the Bachelor of Commerce faculty. And we are going to allow him talk about the association, talk about the needs, or talk about what he expects from us as an association and from the ICPAU, and whatever is going to happen. So, Mr. Mugisha, is that possible for now? Can we have Professor as a panelist?
Professor has rights already. He's a panelist.
Oh, Okay, so Professor, we welcome you. Can you please give us the opening remarks? We are very happy to have you on this event. It means a lot to us as students. Thank you very much.
My dear participants, am I audible? Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes.
Thank you. My dear participants, in a special way, I want to welcome the keynote speaker, the key speaker of the day, CPA Derek Nkajja, the Chief Executive of ICPAU. My friends, my students, and everybody on this call, you are most welcome. This is yet another day when our students actually learn something about their profession. I gather that this is the Asamu, the accounting students of Makerere University, those whom I am their patron. And if there are any others who are not part of that group, you are most welcome to join Asamu, because this is a formidable group that actually where we can always get a catchment area for students who want to become accountants in the future. I want to applaud you students for taking this path and for inviting one of my role models. For starters, Derek taught me on ACCA, to be exact. There was a paper called 3.6, Advanced Financial Reporting. So you can now know how far we have gone, me and CPA Derek Nkajja. And this was way back in 2003. So we have had a long way, me and CPA Derek Nkajja, in trying to shape the accounting profession in Uganda. On my part, for us, we educate, and then the ICPAU trains and actually certifies those who actually must practice accountancy in Uganda. So I welcome you heartily, CPA Derek Nkajja. You are most welcome to this talk, and we are eagerly waiting to hear from you. The future of the accounting profession is the theme of this talk, and how this we should remain maybe we should remain relevant as accountants. Now, at the way of preamble, most professions are under attack, and they have been under attack since time immemorial. Those professions which are usually under attack are those considered to be very valuable to society. And those people who use those professions tend to be envious of them. So any innovator, any innovations normally target those professions. And one of them is accountancy. So my fellow students, my colleagues, my friends, accountancy is the most revered profession in the whole world. Why? Because we understand money, because we control money. So, and everybody in the world is looking for money. That is why whoever wants to come up with solutions, these solutions most often are targeted on how to reduce the value of the accountant. So this theme is well targeted. While we are aware of that threat, how do we stave off this threat and remain relevant so that we remain on top of other professions? So this can't be talked about by anybody else. Is better other than CPA Derek Nkajja. So friends, I welcome you to this gathering, to this call, to listen to one of the important persons in the accountancy profession in Uganda, and that's CPA Derek Nkajja. And I request that whatever he tells us, we learn it, we put it in practice, and I expect to listen in up to a certain point for me to learn, and I expect you also students to learn about this. The second thing, perhaps I would say, Derek Nkaja is the head of ICPAU, that I have told you. And you cannot become an accountant and actually practice accountancy in Uganda without the CPA Derek Nkaja inking on your practicing certificate. So that's how important Derek is. And you students, sometimes I get amazed at how you pick your speakers. Today, you have got a big fish, and I'm happy to be listening in to my former teacher and now a friend in the accounting fraternity. Colleagues, it's now my pleasure to allow you or open this conference, this talk this morning. Thank you very much. Over to you, John Mulinde.
Thank you very much, Professor Stephen Kundabanyanga. Professor Stephen Kundabanyanga is our professor, our lecturer, personally lectured me in accounting, and those were his words. But briefly, before we continue, that is our program. We had an opening prayer. We've had our opening remarks from Professor Stephen, and I'm going to introduce the speaker with a brief profile review. Then our speaker, CPA Derek Nkaja, will come and deliver to us. Remember, put your questions, and we have someone extracting them, Miss Lynette. She's going to be sending them in so that you can be able to be covered. All your concerns are going to be clarified. Do not forget, you have to join in with your names so that you can be able to keep track. And therefore, we shall have closing remarks after the question and answer approach by Ms. Victor Muwebwa. So before I invite the speaker, CPA Derek, I'm going to briefly talk about him on his profile, and he will actually do the most of the introduction after me briefly giving a sneak peek of what we expect or who we expect to speak to us. So allow me.
John, you had unmuted. Please, you had muted. Please unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you now.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go on.
So what we are going to do, CPA Nkaja, we are going to welcome CPA. CPA Nkaja is the Chief Executive Officer of ICPAU, and therefore we welcome you. Please tell us a brief about yourself, and then we get into the speech. We are going to have questions recorded down, and we shall be giving them to you at the end of your speaking. For the next around 30 minutes, you're going to be delivering to us before we can get into the questions. You are very, very welcome to speak to us. Thank you.
Sorry, members. First, I would like to thank Professor Stephen for the wonderful words he has talked about me. I was almost beaming with smiles and wondering whether he's talking about me. But I thank you for remembering our journey. And I think I still have a date. I have to come back and you teach me a PhD so that we can become equal.
You are welcome.
Hopefully, one of these days I should give you a visit and we sort ourselves with accounting in PhD. I'd like to thank the members of Asamu who decided to invite us, invited our team, and they felt that I should come and really say something to them. I take this opportunity to thank their patron and the entire mubs team for that invitation. And I extend my thanks to Asamu for advancing on top of the professors and lecturers teaching you actually advance the accountancy learning through that association. I want to thank the Asamu team and all the participants there. I'm told you are more than 1,400 who have gone through Asamu. That's a very good number. And as ICPAU, we always look out for the Asamu activities throughout the year. John, you asked me to introduce about myself. I tend to just introduce myself as I'm Derek Nkajja, the current Chief Executive of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda. But for this purpose, I'll add on, because sometimes Ugandans, we take ourselves, we don't want to talk more about what we do. I would like to inform all students that I represented the African continent to the International Federation of Accountants Compliance Advisory Panel for 6 years. I was part of the founding board members for the Pan-African Federation of Accountants. Now, those are two apex bodies. PAFA, Pan-African Federation of Accountants, is on the African continent, and IFAC, it's the International Federation where all professional accountants organizations are members if they are to move the accountancy profession right. I'll stop there, probably to add on to reaffirm that I taught financial reporting so many days ago. I stopped, I think, when mubs about, I think, the second year of mubs being formed. But I still have the passion for teaching. So maybe one of these days, Professor will give me a class. I also teach a unit and come back to class.
I will do that gladly.
Okay. We move on to the business for the day. The topic was very good, and it made us rethink through. It says the future of the accounting profession and what ought to be done to remain relevant. And I liked that last part. What do we have to do to remain relevant? So I will go through simply. I will have run through about ICPAU, the future of the professions, evolution of accountant skills, the fourth industrial revolution, abbreviated as 4IR, then professionalism, ethical requirements, emerging trends in accountancy profession. Then we look at what ought to be done, look at what ICPAU is doing, and what you as the student you need to do, and then I'll end. About ICPAU, as Professor said, without ICPAU, you can't practice accountants in Uganda. So it was established by the Accountants Act in 1992. That act has since been repealed, and we have the Accountants Act 2013. ICPAU is a member of the International Federation of Accountants. We are a member of the Pan-African Federation of Accountants. ICPAU's mandate is to regulate and maintain the standard of accountants in Uganda and to prescribe and regulate the conduct of accountants and practicing accountants in Uganda. Now you realize that our profession, especially the professional body and the regulatory framework, are delayed to start. 30 years since independence, and there was nothing on the ground. If you love accounting history, there is a bill that was passed on the floor of Parliament 1970, but never saw the light of the day because there was a coup and the profession went into limbo. So some of the developments which we are struggling to put together as ICPAU, it's because of that delay, 30-year delay. We have accounting regulations. So as students, you must be able to reach out and read the Accountants Act, get to know the regulations, get to know all the history about accountancy. In that Accountants Act, the Institute offers courses. We do maintain a code of ethics and we discipline our members. We issue practicing certificates, as Professor said. We publish a magazine and other publications. But I want also to remind you that we also advise government on matters of financial accountability, management in all sectors of the economy. What we don't do is we do not go out, what's the best word? We are not activists. So we don't go out into activism advocacy, but we really advise government in the best professional way possible by writing our papers, by meetings, and several of our recommendations are being taken up, and we thank government for that. And we believe that if there are many accountants in the economy, we'll be moving a little bit faster. Statutorily, we have a public accountancy examinations board, which board everyone who desires to be a professional accountant in Uganda, following our route, will have to sit a paper or two from that board. There is a disciplinary committee, which I don't wish any one of you to go to. That means you must act ethically. And we also have the Quality Assurance Board, which oversees the quality of practicing accountants. As members of the International Federation of Accountants, some of you may be seeing all these things for the first time, or you may have seen them somewhere, but we have what we call statements of membership obligations. Every professional accountancy organization in the world that espouses professionalism will adhere to those 7 statements. There are 7. The base is education, and that's where you are. The courses professors take you through, they are designed in a certain format, which gives us the initial development of a profession. We call them IPDs. And when you are in school, you study more about IFRSs, International Financial Reporting Standards, ISAs, International Standards on Auditing, then IPSAS, International Public Sector Accounting Standards. But we also have the other 3 statements, which one, SMO1 is about quality assurance, SMO4 is about ethics, which is code of ethics, and SMO6 is about investigation and discipline. So I always tell students, if you want to be a good professional accountant, adhere to the base and the pillars. Then you'll avoid number 4 and number 6, because number 4 and number 6 comes in when number 1 is not adhered to, and you fail to adhere to number 1 because your base and your pillars are weak. So let's look at that and be sure that we do not commit unethical requirements. Okay, let's move to the future of the accountancy profession. And I'm sure that's where majority of you are more interested. But I decided to look at the future of the professionals. Now, about 5 years ago, or about 7 years ago, a father and a son wrote a book called The Future of the Professionals. That was Richard Saskide and Daniel Saskide. One is a lawyer, the father is a lawyer, Richard, and Daniel is an economist who was at that time at the London School of Economics. And they did it through several observations and survey, and they came out with some propositions. And they said, definitely, technology will transform the work of human experts, either as a more form of efficient version that we will have, or as a total transformation version of replacing everything we know. And they quoted the Internet of Things, IoT society, Internet of Things society, or Internet of Things professions. They gave examples of how medicine will also be dispersed on the internet or by machines, how the law profession will end up with the judgments, virtual courts, and every profession, including religious associations, sheikhs, reverend fathers, that were all being transformed into technological advancements. So we will just need to know that the future will be involved with technology, but we shouldn't get scared that the future will not be there. There will always be a future. So what is the future of the accountancy profession? Now, to do that, I decided to look at the evolution of the accountant skills, evolution of accounting skills, and what the roles entailed whenever there was a change. So let's look at that evolution of accountant skill. When I'm looking at it, I want you to know that the accounting profession has not just started. Or I'll pose a question to you and ask, has the accounting profession just started? My answer is an absolute no. It has been around for so many years, and we believe as the promoters of the profession in Uganda that it will still be available, but it may be a different role. The roles may be different, but the profession will still be available. When you look at the first industrial revolution, that's the one I have used. When you see one IR, I'm referring to first industrial revolution, 2 IR, second industrial revolution, 3 IR, third industrial revolution, and 4 IR is fourth industrial revolution. So the first industrial revolution represents an era that marked the change from an agriculture-based to a production-based economy. And it's recorded mainly in Great Britain from around the late 18th century to the middle 19th century. That first revolution ushered in the use of steam power and water power for production. So when you look at it, that time, the accounting skills were naturally acquired. It was about counting with or without recording. So when you're in that factory, you need to count, and you either just need to know how to count. You may record, or you may not record. Then we moved on to the second industrial revolution. And that second industrial revolution typified basically a period of technological revolution around the 19th century and to early 20th century. It was an era when there was mass production, and that mass production was made possible due to advancements in production lines. That's where the theory of production technology were created, and it ended up with mass employment of factory workers, and there was a lot of increments in the production and the creation of a middle class. And we started hearing about middle class workers, middle class entities. So at that time, schools had started to emphasize maths. In our area here in Uganda, the colonial schools had come in, and their mathematics was being taught. So we saw issues about cost control, production estimates, because naturally now man wanted to have efficient ways of producing and efficient ways of managing money. So there was the introduction of accounting records, but mainly they used to be in single entry form, single entry accounting records. And these records principally lacked trails, so auditing was not being done. And that was the form of accountancy that time. Then we enter the third industrial revolution. And the third industrial revolution came up with specific accounting duties and specific accounting studies. I forgot to mention that actually in the second industrial revolution, accountancy or accounting roles, you'd sit before someone and you observe how the other person is doing the work, and then you also learn, and that's how accountants' role were being mentored. And that's where more of clerkship came from. So someone would start as a clerk or a sweeper in an office, clerking, messenger, clerking, and then becomes a professional because he has understood the sphere of the business environment around accountancy roles. Then studies were introduced, specific studies on accounting. And then we started having things to do with compliance. That's the third industrial revolution. We had the compliances, standards. We started maintaining double entry records. Now, some of these may be sounding new to you, but they were not new to the generation where they emerged. So the version I'm giving you here is more of the generation where accountants was developing in UK, in Western Europe, because these Spain, France, Portugal, Britain, Germany, they were in business, and they actually went into the so-called discovery of continents as a business. They were not really looking, they are looking for resources, and it was business that was driving them, and they needed to account for the resources used. So that's how studies started to be grouped, and then we get specific accounting studies. So we get to know auditing, we get to understand taxes in a structured way of how studies can be taught. Then we enter the fourth industrial revolution. Probably I needed to have added on that the third industrial revolution, we saw electronics coming in, we saw computers coming in, and information technology. For those, if you have read about the history, when spreadsheets started, there was also a cry that, oh, accountancy will die because spreadsheets were now adding faster, producing all these reports a little bit faster than the way the handwritten records were being created. But we actually saw an advancement in accountancy role, because then accountants' role looked at compliance, policies, developing a deeper understanding of double entry, and then audit trails came in and taxation came in, and we thrived as the profession. So we move on to the fourth industrial revolution. Fourth industrial revolution, you realize that accounting studies are rapidly being changed by the technological advancement. As we speak right now, we are virtually meeting. You have students everywhere. The professor is one side, the guest speaker is another side, the controller is another side, and we are talking about accountancy. So in this Industrial revolution, or in this generation, you will find that decision making is very key. That's as the role of an accountant, checking the accuracy of the data that has been generated by the machines. You need to be sure of the right and logical technologies you are using, whether they will help you to make decisions. And then you need to start unveiling the unknown. You have to be inquisitive and be able to know what you will desire to do. So in the fourth industrial revolution, you realize that there are new technologies that have emerged. Artificial intelligence is one of them, AI, blockchain technology. This is a technology which helps to make sure that people do not change what they have done. Then IoT is the connectivity of technologies, Internet of Things, and so many other technologies are still coming up. But that's why I put the dots there, so that you know we are not limited in this age. Anything can happen that becomes new. So what will the CPAs do? When I said to the CPAs, I'm referring to all accountants, but especially leaning to the professional accountants. The CPAs will be assisted by machines to do their work, but they need to be, the CPAs need to be intelligent in order to make decisions. The client's expectations will change. There will be new business models, and there will be new regulations that will come in. For instance, you have seen of late the debate about how Facebook, Google are making money from Uganda. There's no tax. So new tax policies in the digital economy are coming up. Blockchain and cryptocurrency regulations are being debated in Nigeria and South Africa. And there's a possibility that a new economy and new monetary policies will come up that will manage the digital world, the digital economy. So that's what we see. So what are the skills that we see in the fourth industrial revolution? And I want you to take note of what is here. In 2015, research was done, and the ranking of the top 10 was complex problem solving, coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, quality control, service orientation, judgment and decision making, active listening, and then creativity. 5 years later, that lineup was changing, and 2 new entrants had come in: emotional intelligence and cognitive flexibility. I looked at other researchers, and there is a researcher who has put active listening as #1. And you saw active listening was appearing in 2015, not appearing on 2020. But someone did a research around 2017, and active listening was around 15, and number 15. And some entrants, especially, there is a site which talks about opportunities after work, and they are putting active listening as one of #1, that this generation doesn't listen properly. And those who will be able to listen will be important in the fourth industrial revolution. So that's what we look at as the skills that we desire in the fourth industrial revolution. I talked about professionalism because you can't beat anything. We have seen this emerge, and the Oxford Dictionary defines the professionalism as being the competence or skills expected of a professional. So if you are there and you are studying accountancy and you want to really be good at what you do, then you are desiring to be a professional. So you must practice that activity in a way that does not depict amateurism. You have to be of quality, you have to be efficient, And that's what will distinguish you from the rest. So with emerging technologies, new business models, new client expectations, new regulations, what do we see? The questions you'll have to ask yourself would be, do we have the required skills? How are we going to remain relevant? And how are we going to add value to our customers? How are we going to remain ethical? How do we give advisory that is acceptable while we are not comfortable with the technologies used? Do you have the required skills? I believe so. One of the things is you are all connected to the internet right now, so at least you have the basics of technology. As you move out, every one of you must be able to have the basics of the technology. And how do you remain relevant? Is by learning. Learn everything new. If it becomes obsolete, learn something new. How do we go on adding value to our customers? We'll understand problem solving and be able to do what the customers desire. We have to remain ethical, and that's one of the things that I desire for every professional accountant. Now, when we talk about professionalism, Zachary, in the meantime, not now, but when I say Paul, you will do for me. Professionalism has a conceptual framework. And within that conceptual framework, there is professional competence and due care. Now, that professional competence is that if you decide to be a butcher, be the best butcher that knows the right knives to use, the right vessels of the animal, and make sure that you do it to the best of your knowledge. So if you decide to be an accountant, be ready to know all the details of accountancy and espouse that competence and due care to be called an accountant. Then you must have integrity, objectivity in all what you do, confidentiality, and there is what we call professional behavior. And many times people say, no, I say what I say. But if, for instance, you are an accountant and you have gone and examined someone's books of accounts, even if you see there was something of an opportunity to do, we don't expect you to turn around and you having been the examiner of books to go and again execute that opportunity. That will be against your professional behavior as an accountant. We don't expect you to start going out bad mouthing. Your duty is to advise the client, but not to go against his wishes. And then there is independence, undertake all assignments knowing that you are totally independent. And that will be very crucial in the fourth industrial revolution, because machines can be compromised. Much as people say machines are better than humans, but humans have a soul. And if your soul has been trained to be a professional, that soul will not be compromised. Zach, now members, I want you to do a quick poll for me. It takes about 30 seconds, and then you mark Zachary. Sorry, I was calling Mark. Zachary, if you can run a poll for me, I need to see how that.
I have launched it, so everyone that is attending the call should be able to see. Everyone is allowed to pick at least 3 options. So we'll see what they pick.
So the poll is about, in your opinion, what digital skills does the market expect a fresh CPA graduate? I have remained it with fresh CPA graduate, but just take it a fresh graduate.
So right now it's displayed to all their screens. Whoever can just look at the screen can be able to vote on that poll.
You're going to take about 15 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds. It's a simple one. There are about 5 options. You pick 3, and then you give us the results when we close the poll. But I wanted us to be participatory and be sure that we can see where we are going in the future of accountants.
So far, 11% of the attendees have voted on the poll.
How many?
22% right now.
Okay.
I see more people voting.
5 more seconds. Okay, you can close the poll. We'll do with those. And
All
then
right. Are you able to see the results?
I haven't seen the results.
You just go to your screen. There's the tab for polls. You click it open. You'll see the results. Share results.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm sharing the results. Right? Yes.
It has come.
Yes.
Now, well, this is very interesting.
48 people voted. So the first poll on my the first say manage financial data in a secure and compliant manner. That is 37 votes out of 48. Collaborate. Yes. Then the second that comes second is research and keep up to date with technical advances. That is 35 votes out of 48. Then we have set up and competently use core personal computing skills, 27 out of 48. It's followed by collaborate and communicate in a digital environment, 60. That's 26 out of 48. And then the last one being interpret and construct simple financial models, 18 out of 48.
Yes. Now you have more or less the same with what we have. And this was the research. I decided I wanted to know how you guys, yours would look like, because that's our research of what the future of the accountants, how they were looking at it. And this is a survey we did across the market, not with graduates, but just general around the market. And more or less you have gotten similar pattern. So a new graduate needs to understand, manage financial data in a secure and a compliant manner, needs to learn how to collaborate and communicate in a digital environment, which I said you're already part of. And you need to interpret and construct simple financial models. And you need to set up and competently use core personal computing and digital devices required for your work. So as you start accounting, you just need to know when you get a new technology and say, how do I apply what I know to these technologies? And then you'll be able to come up. Now, when we globalize what we have. There was a study that was done about 7 years ago, 5 years ago, on a company called Fujitsu on the evolution of the global employees' competences in the developed countries. And they talked about 10 competencies. And they said every accountant, or all those who are preparing to be accountants, should come up with these competencies. And those competencies don't differ so much from what we have said. You must have professional knowledge of digital technologies, creative abilities and development of imagination, professional knowledge in a particular industry. So if you choose to be an accountant in a pharmaceutical, learn also something about pharmacy. Then professional knowledge of specifics of business organizations. You must also have an ability for logical thinking and analysis, which we had already seen. And you need to have knowledge in the field of specialties and human science. And you had to have the ability for decision making, which we talked about, leadership qualities. You need to be social and you have empathy for others, and then professional excellence. And these are things we see on a daily basis. So what do we need to do? And go out on what ought to be done, because that was the question. What ought to be done? The most important part of every road to success is to know what ought to be done. So I'm glad that you desired to understand what ought to be done. And someone said that the most important part of every business is to know what ought to be done, and what ought to be done, but what to do what ought to be done, but what would not have been done unless I did it, I thought to be my duty. So your duty as students is to come out and get to do what ought to be done. So what do we need to
Derek?
do? Yes, I have just 1-2 slides and then I end.
Okay, I was just reminding you about that.
Yes, and that will be about 2 to 3 minutes. So I wanted to show what we are doing is periodical review of the syllabus, so that you are up to date in case you decide to become an accountant. And when we do our syllabus, we also inform universities. So even the universities, we have seen them continuously changing and giving you things that you ought to know or ought to do. We talk about continuous professional development, that's CPD, and we talk about practical experience. And we look at guidance, the tools we develop, and then we continuously conduct research and surveys. And that's one reason also I decided to run one here to make sure that we are informed with what is in the public and what is expected. I was supposed to run another survey, but I decided to go away with it, but I want to leave you with those thoughts. What challenges do you face in developing your digital skills? You have to answer it as an individual, because that's the only way you will come up. This is my second last slide. It is still about what ICPAU does. We continue to promote professionalism because all research shows that professionalism will thrive. The skill set may be different, but professionalism will thrive. Anyone who will be on the digital space but is unprofessional will face the wrath of digital regulation. So we strive to promote professionalism, as we have seen. Then I move on to what you should do, you as students, and it is my last slide. The basic things you have to do is search for knowledge in whatever form, and make sure that you can become the best you are at what you have chosen to be. Learn soft skills, and these soft skills, even when you come for membership at ICPAU, they are compulsory, and soft skills is about communication, personal skills, writing skills, knowing the way to interact with the people, because that is key in decision making, it is key in leading teams. In work at being a professional, whatever you choose, work on your problem solving and not problem creation. Many times we have become server government at Yambe. We create problems instead of trying to solve problems. You need to mind people, learn how to work with people. You have to develop a critical thinking capability. We have come across people who know how to say back everything they were taught, but change a bit, and that's where ICPAU tends to catch, that's where PAYEB tends to catch some of you. You are very good at recalling, and once they change and create a solution, a problem around it using the very knowledge, then you are off guard. So learn to think critically and be able to solve problems. You need to learn how to negotiate. And learning negotiating does not mean that you become arrogant. Politely you negotiate, but firmly, and then you're able to move across the table and get what you desire. And lastly, be qualitative in all what you do. So quality at all what you do. I thank you. A sincere apologies for running over the time. This is a topic I'm very passionate about, and I struggled to reduce it to 30 minutes, but I hope you will find something out of it. Back to you.
All right, thank you, CPA Derek Nkaja. I hope it has been a very great moment for each of us, despite the fact that we are running short of time. So we are going to keep the question and answer session as brief as possible. And we are left with only one thing on the agenda, which will be the closing remarks from our Vice President of Asamu. And the first concern is it possible for you to share the presentation that you've been taking us through so that we can pass it on to anyone who is interested? And I request that CPA Derek, I can read these questions at once and then you approach them after I've read them, because I've come up with a few that were sending in questions. So I've filtered to only those that have not been answered in your presentation. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
The team will send the slides shortly. First, they may send them to those who have attended. Then you may have them as some as well.
All right. So the first question is, what does it mean to be a tech survey accountant? Should I be able to code? Then I also have,
Beg your pardon?
What does it mean to be a tech savvy accountant, technology savvy accountant? Yes. Should I be able to code? That is one of the questions. Then the other one from CPA Katende, we have heard that CPA syllabus was going to change. When is that going to be? And will the papers go beyond 18? That is another. Then something you've actually mentioned about, but probably they want clarification. Please paint a picture for us on how the accounting role will look like in 5 years. Maybe briefly you can paint a picture for them, but generally the presentation was actually painting that picture. And the other one, what supplementary courses are most relevant to have a competitive advantage in the accounting roles of the future, as you have said? So those are the questions that we have so far, and I would give you a platform to approach them before we can proceed.
Right, thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you, members, for bringing in these questions. What does it take to be a tech survey accountant? Is just to appreciate the environment in which you are. I said learn and learn and learn. For instance, when Excel sheets came on board, when computers came on board, a good accountant needed to understand spreadsheets. There was the first generation of spreadsheets before Excel, and one had to know even how to draft or create that spreadsheet. So that was the generation. Then Excel came and it made matters very easy. Everyone dropped spreadsheets in the original format and took spreadsheets in the way Excels are. So you learn Excel again. Now we are seeing connectivity of technologies. So you may find that when you go into an organization, that you may need probably to make sure your Excel read Word, because that's already possible. That means a tech survey accountant needs to understand how to connect the two and they read each other. As we go forward, there is a possibility, it's a possibility that actually a good accountant will understand some basic coding, especially on report writing and decision making, because you may want probably to skew what the technologies are giving you for you to create a decision. Because we have said you must know how to make decisions. So in order for you to know how to make decisions, you may have to understand data analytics, and you may have to understand how data moves, how data is analyzed, and probably you may have to know how do we connect this data to theorize around and create a decision. Those are possible capabilities, and it answers what courses someone else can add on. You may have to go into data analytics and coding basics. You don't need to be but if you choose to be also good at coding, you can actually code for the financial world. You can code for the accountancy world and create new technologies because you understand the subject. As Professor said, everyone who has come up as to develop something new, develops something new in those professionals that they want to disprove. And the more they want to disprove, the more the professions continue to thrive, because something inherently in that profession needs to be done by humans. Change of CPA syllabus. Yes, the syllabus is changing. Unfortunately, coronavirus pandemic disrupted us. The syllabus was supposed to start this year. The board decided to push it to next year. We hope that the situation will normalize a bit and be able to roll out a new syllabus. The syllabus, the subjects reducing, no, but they are changing a bit. The number itself has not changed, but the syllabus structure and some contents have changed to move to the new look of accountancy profession. And the way it's being examined is also likely to change a bit, including inserting in computer review and possibility for them to be introduced at a certain level. Picture of the accountants in the future, that accountants will still be available because there'll still be money, there will still be resources, and people need to efficiently manage resources and efficiently manage that money and distribute it. And we distribute it in collaboration, so there'll still be companies, there'll still be shares. So I see a scenario where accountants may, or most of the work may be computer run, but the accountant will still come to the table to make decisions, to give insights, to give forecasts, and to give predictions. So if you are looking at, for instance, I'm going to use this example of oil. You have heard about the debate of clean energy and oil. And in Uganda, we are sinking wells and doing roads for oil. And some countries are saying to hell with oil. So depending on where you are standing, depending on where you're going, there will still be a role for an accountant, because the economies still at different stages of development and the different levels of knowledge that is required. Professor will tell you that when we are studying accountants at that time, professionalism, there were futures. We were studying futures and those stock exchanges. I'm about to exit my accountancy life and I have not used the features because I have not moved there. But it doesn't mean they don't exist. So it depends on where accounting, where your opportunity and role happens to lie and what you see. So we introduce you to a broad range, and once you start working there, try to learn as much as possible and be the best accountant you can be.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Derek. I'm seeing Mr. Godfrey putting up his arm, but before that, one last question to you. This is from our one Mr. Otimong Levy, who doubles as our president at Asamu, and is asking, what has been your top cornerstone or principle that has put you in a place you are now as a leader and a professional?
Wow, that's a That's a very interesting question. Now, what has put me is I would say being humble and doing the best I can, even when no one is seeing. Because in most of the roles I have ended up doing, it's those who saw me doing something and then they say, oh, I think he can do for us something here. The second one, or the third one, is offering to do things for no money, which is very ironical. And I see the young generation, everything they want to do, they ask for money. But I've done a lot of volunteerism. And from volunteerism, people see you and then they say, oh, I think he can do this one. And then you are taken on for some other role. So that's, I can say that's what has driven my career path. And probably that's what I will continue doing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Derek. And in case of anything else, I guess we shall be contacting you, and because now we are in direct contact with you as Asamu.
Thank you. It was an honor to present to you. I wish to again to thank Asamu leadership, mubs leadership, and Professor Personal. I want to thank you for your leadership of the association as the patron. Let's continue developing Uganda. Yesterday I was on a call with the Ugandan who works in the UK, and he made some profound statement that only us who will develop our own country. And that comes from someone who has worked in UK for so many years and realizes that no one will develop our country apart from ourselves. So let's continue doing it. Let's continue promoting accountancy, develop accountancy, and then contribute to the Ugandan economy. Thank you.
All right, we are going to have closing remarks from the Vice President of Asamu before we can close the event. So Ms. Muwebwa Victor, please give us some closing remarks of the event, and thankfully appreciate our speakers and close our event. Thank you, Ms. Muwebwa. I hope you're on the call. Please come on board.
Yes. Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, we can hear
you are
you.
loud
Okay.
and clear.
I don't
please.
know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. In appreciation to our dear guest, Mr. Nkanja Derek, our professor, and the Asamu cabinet and the CPA team, and to everyone who has made it to this event, I would like to say a good afternoon. And my name is Muwebwa Victor, currently the Vice President of Asamu. Really, I've learned a lot in today's session. And on behalf of the Asamu team, I would like to say thank you so much for every word that we've had. And the most of it that I've learned is that in this changing world, our future is bright if we keep learning and if we focus on providing quality and effectively. So I would like to thank you so much, Mr. Nkanja Derek, for that session and the words that you provided to us. Probably some of us had become hopeless and we were seeing our future uncertain with the profession due to the emergence of different technologies. But now I believe we can hope further in this. We can go further. We can continue pursuing our career as accountants. Thank you so much for that. And to the team that organized, we appreciate so much everyone who put a hand, and to everyone who has attended this session. Thank you so much. because the devotion of time, the devotion of data, and the thanks to God for the network. So I appreciate for everything. And now as we close off, I would like to thank that John, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to close off. And hopefully everyone has learned something as we go further. And I believe when we stand by all the words of heard, we can adjust to the changes, we be flexible, and probably create changes in the near future for the good of our profession. Then the other thing, I would like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. And I think I'm more boosted now because of the words I've heard. And I believe accounting is going to go so far than even we expected. Thank you so much. So as I was given the opportunity to close off the session, I don't know if I'm the very person to give the closing prayer, but those are my words on behalf of the team. Only to remind us that in case you missed any of the different sessions, you can go on the Asamu platforms. These sessions are recorded and they are put there for future references. So for anything that you've not understood so well here, you can go and check on our platforms on YouTube, LinkedIn, and you get to understand better. We've heard that learning is continuous, and it is this learning that will help us be competitive in this changing world. Thank you so much.
All right.
So Mulinda, I don't know if I'm the one to make the prayer.
Thank you, Ms. Victor. Thank you, CPA Derek, and thank you for attending. To all of those who have attended, I would like to give that prayer to close off our event. And in case of anything, please reach out to Asamu on our platforms, our LinkedIn. You could reach out to us as personal accounts, LinkedIn, I'm Mulinde John, and the various workers with Asamu. So let us humble ourselves. Oh Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the ability and potential you've given us to be able to come together and discuss value. We pray that we can proceed to have events like this so that we can proceed and continue to flourish even in the times where there are uncertainties, in times where there are new normals, us as students and professionals who are mentors. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray, amen. Kindly, you can leave the meeting. We were promised the presentation from CPA Derek to be sent to us, and you are going to get it. We are going to get in touch with CPA Uganda, ICPAU Uganda, so that they can give it to us. Thank you for all of those who have attended. Kindly go on LinkedIn, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Facebook, wherever it is, and follow Asamu. There are various occasions, there are various events like this. We deliver quality information to students. Well, it's an accounting association, but we are not limited to only accounting, despite that today we have been talking about accounting. So make sure that you go and interact with our platforms. Make sure that you are not left out for this valuable information. If you're a student, you always need to be updated on what is going on, what is happening in the career world. You know, we don't need to study something irrelevantly. We need to be updated every step of the way. So kindly start leaving the meeting. And that is the end of our session. Thank you very much.